Hi, I'm Ellie Waddington, a hypnobirthing teacher, positive birth advocate, and mum to two feral but adorable children. You are listening to the Bell Mama Hypnobirthing and Positive Birth podcast. This podcast is here to empower you with the tools, knowledge, and confidence you need for a calm, positive birth experience. Together, we'll tackle the big questions, bust some myths, and share practical tips for your journey into motherhood. Plus, you'll hear inspiring real birth stories from mums who've been there, and expert guests sharing their wisdom and insights. Whether you're planning your first or adding to your tribe, I've got you covered, so let's dive in. Hey gorgeous mamas, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited that I think spring has finally arrived. So here in the UK, the first day of spring officially is the 21st of March, and it really feels like spring at the moment. We've had some wonderful weather. We've had some absolutely gorgeous sunny weather. I've seen a few bumblebees out and about. I've seen a butterfly. There are birds flying around with bits of stuff in their beak for building their nest. We've got daffodils. We've got some primroses. We've got crocus, and it just feels so amazing to be outside at the moment. And I'm not someone that's really affected by SAD, by seasonal affective disorder, but I think everyone just feels better when you get some sun on your skin and you get outside. Yeah, it just really lifts your mood, and I'm just feeling so inspired and happy and lifted at the moment. I'm just so excited for spring. And at the moment, I'm really kind of starting to push some of my in-person services again. For the past kind of year and a half, I've been mainly doing my teaching and my classes online because the childcare issues that we were having. But now that my youngest has started going to nursery a bit more often and I've got a bit more free time, and she's not as dependent on me to go to sleep either, so I'm able to do some classes in the evenings as well, so my husband can put her to bed, and it's just a lot easier all round basically. So I'm launching my pregnancy relaxation classes, and the first block of those are happening at the moment, and I'm just loving teaching in person so much. I'm really enjoying sort of that energy of being face to face with someone and teaching them in person. And I've got my first group hypnobirthing courses launching in the summer as well, so I'm really excited for that. If you are in the Northumberland area or the Scottish borders and you might want to come along to one of my relaxation courses or my hypnobirthing courses, have a look at my website and see what's available, see what's on offer. I would absolutely love to support you on your journey. Now today, this episode, I have a guest. We are talking to Tessa from Mother Your Way, and we are talking all about the benefits of yoga, both in pregnancy and after you've had your baby as well. And there is just so much to pregnancy yoga that I didn't understand. I've never done yoga, and so there was just so much that I didn't understand, so much more to it that I just didn't appreciate. And so I really enjoyed this conversation with Tessa and getting to know what she does and how she helps the wonderful ladies that she works with. And you should go follow her on Instagram. I am so jealous of her full classes, guys. She puts up stories of her just before her classes start, and it's just a room full of mats. It's just a sea of yoga mats because she has these full classes, because she is just so good at what she does, and the word gets out there and everyone wants to attend her classes. And I think if I was in Yorkshire, I'd probably be wanting to attend those classes as well. So without further ado, here is today's interview with Tessa. So hello Tessa, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on today. If you could just start off by telling us your story, kind of who you are, where you are, and how you got to doing what you do today.
Yeah. Hi, Ellie. Thank you so much for inviting me to come on. I'm really excited and pleased to be here. So my name's Tessa, and I'm the founder of Mother Your Way, which focuses on yoga, birth and beyond. So I'm a hypnobirthing and pre and postnatal yoga teacher. I'm based in West Yorkshire, just outside of Bradford, between Leeds and Bradford. And I founded Mother Your Way in 2024, so really recently. And I wanted to train in prenatal yoga and hypnobirthing because I did both of those things when I was pregnant with my son, who's now 3.5. And they made a huge difference to my perspective on preparing for my birth and labour and kind of managing symptoms in pregnancy. But also the amazing benefits of positioning and yoga positioning and kind of biomechanics for birth, which I had no idea about before I started doing prenatal yoga and hypnobirthing. And both of those things combined really helped me have an incredibly positive birth with my son. Despite the fact that we were just coming out of lockdown, it was amazing and everything I'd sort of ever really wanted. And after I'd sort of emerged from the postnatal haze of having a little boy, I knew that I wanted to train in both of those things to share my passion for those practices with other pregnant women and to support them. And for me, the combination of both hypnobirthing and yoga is incredible and is super effective, and they feed into each other. And I was really keen to offer that because where I am, I haven't come across other providers offering them as a kind of combined service. So I really wanted to do both of those things to complement each other. So I trained with Sally Park's yoga last year down in London, which was amazing. And we had several fully immersive days learning all about pre and postnatal yoga. We had midwives come speak to us. We had baby yoga people come train us, and it was fabulous. And it really fired me up to launch my business last year. So I've been teaching prenatal yoga since then. I teach in person a couple of times a week, but I also have an online yoga club. So I have a whole host of on-demand videos that pregnant women can access that are maximum 10 minutes long because I wanted them to be super accessible. And they focus on lots of different parts of your body, but also preparing for labour in your final weeks.
Wow, amazing. That is such a cool story. So what I'd like to talk about first, I think, is you talked about yoga being able to kind of help or alleviate with some of the symptoms that you might be experiencing during pregnancy. So could you talk through some of those? What sort of symptoms could it actually help with that some of my listeners might be going through themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a whole range of pregnancy symptoms that lots of women experience. Like we know, we know that you get all these weird and wonderful things in pregnancy. And there's some really good evidence that shows that yoga can alleviate a lot of those. And my yogis, my clients have said to me in class, they come in and they say, oh my goodness, my back hurts so much, and my lower back hurts, my hips really hurting. And by the end of the class, they are genuinely like, okay, it's gone. So I see it every week when I teach my clients, but there's also really good evidence around it. So particularly things like pelvic and hip pain, so pelvic girdle pain, round ligament pain, pain in the pelvis and around the hips, which a lot of women tend to get towards the end of pregnancy. Pregnancy yoga can really help alleviate that, but that's why it's so important to go to a pregnancy yoga class rather than a standard yoga class, because a lot of the moves in a traditional yoga class can actually make them worse. Whereas if you go to a trained pregnancy yoga teacher, they understand what can trigger PGP and what can trigger that pain. And making sure that we're avoiding those or taking adaptations when we need to. So things like pelvic and hip pain, it can make a difference. So like one specific study showed that just like 10 yoga sessions reduced overall pelvis pain for women that took part. So there's really good evidence around that. But there's other things that are slightly less common, but things like varicose veins, ankle swelling can be reduced. And it can also help with things that are more like medically challenging. So there's actually evidence that shows that it can reduce high blood pressure, so hypertension in pregnancy. It can reduce that if you do that kind of alongside your medical advice from your healthcare professional. And a lot of that is to do with the relaxation elements of pregnancy yoga, lowering your blood pressure, reducing your cortisol levels, teaching you how to relax, teaching you how to breathe. So it can reduce hypertension. And it can also help to reduce blood sugar levels for women with gestational diabetes if they manage it alongside their diet. So there's both those sort of more day-to-day aches and pains, but also for women who are experiencing specific like clinical symptoms, it can help with those. And a lot of women really find that it helps them sleep better. So even during those like final few weeks when it feels like your body is cruelly making you not sleep before you're having your baby, doing some pregnancy yoga can really help, particularly if you focus on doing the relaxation element of it. So for example, every class I teach, the final 15 minutes of my class is we lie down in like a lovely safe reclined position, we get blankets, we get eye masks, we do a really gorgeous visualization which really focuses on relaxation, and I lower all the lights, we have candles, and the amount of times women just like fall asleep at the end of class or are like lying there being like, please don't make me leave, I'm so relaxed. Like it gives it kind of by reducing your tension, by reducing your aches and pains, it can help you sleep better. And I find that particularly women who already have like children really benefit from that. So they find that they're running around after the toddlers all the time, but by carving themselves out some specific time to relax, it can just help them switch off and to feel a little bit less overwhelmed, which obviously can then also contribute to sleeping better. And linked to that, we know that pre and postnatal anxiety and depression is really high. But actually, just one session of yoga has been shown to reduce anxiety in like low risk pregnant women. So people who are experiencing like low levels of like pregnancy anxiety, yoga can really help with that. And a lot of that again is to do with the breathing. It's to do with the understanding of the relaxation, the breathing and the movement. And it can also help reduce levels of fear around pregnancy. So it kind of ties into a lot of those things that we explore during hypnobirthing as well. So to me, it really prepares kind of both your mind and your body for birth, but also to help you manage those things during pregnancy, which can be really challenging and can stop women from enjoying their pregnancy.
Wow, that is a massive list of reasons to do yoga. Like, are there any reasons not to do yoga?
I mean, not really. The vast majority of women can do pregnancy yoga. Like, obviously, if some women who might have really specific health conditions might have to do quite a lot of adaptations for doing yoga. So, just for like off the top of my head, if you have a low-lying placenta, you have to avoid like certain deep squats just because they may increase your risk of bleeding. But again, a trained pregnancy yoga teacher will know what things you should avoid when you have certain conditions. So again, that's why it's so important to go to a pregnancy yoga teacher rather than just continuing to go to your standard yoga class. Because if you let them know if you have any of those specific conditions, then they can adapt they can adapt their class. And the vast majority of women can do yoga in pregnancy in some form or other. It might be scaled back, it might be sitting on a chair, it might be limited to sort of the breathing. But even just doing the breathing, the arm movements, the relaxation elements can be hugely beneficial. So there's essentially no reason. I feel like everyone should do yoga pre-postnatal, everyone had a baby or not. I think it's a fantastic practice to get into.
Yeah, so I can remember during my second pregnancy, I had the most awful rib pain, and it just went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I just kind of put it down to just one of those things. My body is changing, and you're just going to have to put up with it. And I really wish now that I had kind of done something like that, because I feel like going to a yoga class actually could have helped with some of that pain.
Yeah, absolutely. And so often I think women do just assume that it's just part of pregnancy. I just have to accept it. Like it's just the way it goes. But actually, that's not the case for a lot of things. And doing really, gentle stretching, doing some of that yoga can really help manage some of those symptoms. It's not, it's not a magic pill, but it can really alleviate some of those symptoms that are really not enjoyable for women. And it can also like help you understand what causes them. So as you kind of trust your body, builds that understanding of your body. And yoga is really important for that as well. And I think it really increases the sort of self-belief of women in their own bodies. They're trusting their instincts, they're trusting intuition, because so much of that is, when I'm saying at the beginning of class, if this feels good, keep doing it. If it doesn't, stop. Like, listen to what your body is saying. Don't just follow what I am doing. And it's building that belief that they know what makes their symptom feel good or less good, so that they can do that in their day-to-day life as well.
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah, because obviously I think, you're going to you as a yoga teacher once a week, but actually lots of what they learn with you, they could probably go home and practice themselves.
Absolutely. And so a lot of them, so particularly I always encourage my yogis to do the sort of breathing techniques that we do, obviously take those home and do them at home. But particularly as women get towards this kind of final stages of their pregnancy, we do quite a lot of like the physical birth prepping class. So we will do like practicing birth positions through yoga sequences. So we will do a lot of box position, which is hands and knees. We'll do a lot of forward lunge position, which is 1 foot forward. And obviously that's a fantastic position to be in during labor. We'll do a lot of squats to strengthen your legs. So we also use like birth balls as ways sort of, leaning over them, taking child's pose on them. And I say, go home and do these in front of the TV. Do them in front of the TV because it means that your body gets used to doing them. It knows what to do. It has that kind of, you already have that neural pathway of saying, okay, actually, I know what makes me comfortable. Being on my all fours makes me comfortable. Leaning forward over a birth ball is really comfy. So that when it comes to labor, you're automatically going there. It's not something that's brand new that you've never done before. Actually, your body knows that it's comfortable in those positions. So you're more likely to adapt to take them. And obviously, we know an upright forward open position is fantastic to be in during labor. So yeah, there's loads of things that women can go away and do outside of the yoga classes, and a lot of those women do. We all buy a birth ball, don't we? Then what the hell do we do with a birth ball? We're just sitting there bouncing on it. So I always teach women what to do with their birth ball, so they can really get the value out of it. And we talk about trying to not sitting on a deep sofa in the last few weeks of pregnancy, because we're thinking about your pelvis tipping back and potentially baby getting into a back-to-back position. So thinking about sitting on your birth ball when you're watching TV, maybe just having 10 minutes of being on all fours, leaning forward over a birth ball as you're getting towards the end of your pregnancy. So women can take that away and practice that at home too.
So I think this is like in just kind of like the 15 minutes that we've been talking here, I've realized that I have been woefully ignorant of what pregnancy yoga actually entails. So I kind of had these visions of like, pregnant women just doing some stretches, just having a fun time in their class. But actually it sounds like you are preparing them for labor and for birth, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a really common misconception of pregnancy yoga, which is just like you kind of sit, you do a little breathing, you do a little bit of waving your arms around. When actually, certainly my classes are really focused on women understanding their bodies, women building their self-belief, building their self-confidence, getting them physically prepared for labor, and then practicing those positions as well. So I had a recent client who came to my yoga classes for like 4 or 5 months during her pregnancy. And it was her second baby, and she hadn't had a fantastic first birth, and she really, really wanted to have an unmedicated birth for her second child. And we did loads of work during that time on talking about taking upright forward open positions, remaining active during the first stages of labor, movement, the benefits of squatting, doing yogi squats towards the end of your pregnancy to open up your pelvic floor, the fact that you can increase the size of your pelvis by 30% by taking a different position. And she just had no idea of any of this. So we did loads of work around that. We talked about making sure that we're letting our oxytocin flow in that first stage of labor. Her first baby, she went in really early to hospital and her labor stalled. So we were talking about all of those things. We did loads of visualizations. We do an affirmation each class. So each class has a theme that we talk about. So it might be like connection with baby. It might be about, so I taught a yoga class last night and my affirmation was I take control of what I can and let go of what I can't, which is one of my favorite affirmations. We did loads of that. And she texted me the day after her baby was born. She was like, I just can't believe how different my second birth was because of all the stuff that I learned with you. She said, I stayed active. I moved around. I stayed at home on my birth ball until I was really established, got my eye mask on, got to hospital, listened to the same music that we'd been listening to in class, had a really short second stage of labor and gave birth to her baby on all fours. And she said, I just would never have thought to do any of that stuff if I hadn't come to your class and had the confidence to do that and had the knowledge about how to do that as well. So actually practicing those things can really build that understanding. And I had another client as well who, similar, when she first arrived, she was like, I'm taking all the pain relief. Like I'm not here for the kind of the wacky birth stuff. I'm just here because I want to stay fit. And, I'm 100% give me all the drugs. And she sent me a picture of her birth and she was on her birth ball with a gas and air. And she said the midwives just said they couldn't believe how dilated I was because I was just breathing through my contractions. And she said, I did it all with breathing and gas and air. And she said, I would never have thought to have done that, or I could have done that before, I did all of that yoga work. So I passionately believe that the stuff that I bring in for my hypnobirthing combined with the yoga stuff is just really, really like a magic combination. So it can definitely be so much more than just a sort of nice, wappy stretching by candlelight. And there's a little bit of that. We do a little bit of relaxation, but it is, to me, it's so much more than that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I love that. And it kind of occurs to me as well, but kind of we've been focusing a lot on mum and the benefits for mum, but actually kind of staying active towards the end of pregnancy and the positions that you're describing, that's probably helping to get baby into the ideal position as well.
Absolutely. So a lot of it is a lot of pregnancy yoga focuses on opening up the hips, opening up the pelvis, which obviously can help baby get into an optimal position for them to be born. And again, a lot of the work that I do around the birth prep elements of it, so showing women what positions to take, can help baby get into a right position, but also giving the women the knowledge and the understanding of how to take different positions during labor. Because, we know that we shouldn't just be teaching everyone go on all fours, because actually often their baby is telling them to take a different position. If they tune into where they're feeling intense sensation or what their body is telling them to do, actually baby is very clever and baby can tell you what position to take. So not just saying the only best way is, knees and calves out, which can be a fantastic position, but some women actually don't want to take that position. They might want to be squatting, they might want to be standing, they might want to be leaning over a bed. And often that is actually because of the position of their baby, because their baby is essentially telling them what position to adopt. So if you have that kind of self-belief and you're tuning into that intuition, then you can really listen to your baby. But the benefits of baby as well, like obviously reducing your stress levels has a really good beneficial impact for baby, because it's reducing your cortisol levels. They're feeling you be more calm. A lot of my clients say that their babies really move around loads when they're doing the visualization at the end. So we stack up lots of bolsters, we kind of put them in a safe recline position, we put a blanket on, put an eye mask on, and they just like hold their babies. And most of them say that they're just most active at any other time than in a week, because they're really dialed into them. They've done a little bit of movement, then they're taking that time to connect with them. And they say that, they kind of know that the mum is really relaxed and it's this lovely special bonding time, and evidence backs it up as well. Evidence shows that women who do prenatal yoga do feel more connected to their baby. And again, particularly those mums who maybe have another child already, they don't have time to sort of sit around and think about the fact that they're pregnant. So having that time each week to sit and to just really bond and connect with their baby and dial into their baby is really lovely. And we know that obviously in the third trimester, babies can hear external noise as well. So they hear the same music every week. I play the same soundtrack every week. And when my clients come in, they say, oh my goodness, this music is just so relaxing to me, because they're so used to it. So I then have clients who say, can I obviously have that music to play in the birth room with me as well? Because I feel like it relaxes me so much. But obviously baby's hearing that music as well, knowing that it's time to relax. And we do this lovely breath sometimes, this breath practice called bee breath, which is kind of like a humming. And that humming creates kind of vibrations through your lungs and then through your pelvis. And it's like a sauna massage for babies, so they can feel that vibration through the amniotic sac and the waters. And they love it. So you can feel like we're all humming in this, obviously this amazing group of women, like humming through to their babies, and the babies are feeling that as well. So there's lots of different ways that it can kind of connect with your baby through it as well. And, having the music, having those kind of breath, having that reduced stress can all be a fabulous way to bond with baby and to just benefit baby as well.
That sounds so beautiful. Like the way you just described that, that sounds so beautiful. And I can remember with my second, I didn't do yoga or any of the beautiful practices that you've been describing, but obviously I did do hypnobirthing, did the relaxations, and the differences between my two babies when they were born, it was so different. With my first, which was very medicalized, very
Mm-hmm.
hospitalized, and my son, he was so stressed when he was born by forceps. He was so stressed, and it took him ages, even though he was skin to skin, it took him ages to calm down from obviously being wrenched from me, by his head with forceps. But my second, which was, a water birth at home, and because I'd say so calm because of my hypnobirth thing, my daughter was a completely different child coming out. She was so calm, and I was like, are you awake? Like, she was awake. She was just like looking around and taking it all in. She was so calm. And yeah, there's such a difference. And I think what you're describing, the practices that you teach, that would be so beneficial to baby. And I think if someone was sort of coming into that with their second child, they would notice a big difference as well.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, and sort of touching on the kind of the process of birth as well. Like you've obviously mentioned, the second baby round, he had second baby you had in the water, and there is a really good randomized control trial that showed that yoga can help reduce it can increase the likelihood of vaginal birth, straightforward vaginal birth, and reduce the length of labor. It can there was actually fewer rates of induction in that group as well. And there's not a huge amount of understanding of why that happens, but actually, women also have a short second and third stages of labor in this trial as well. They had a control group of women who didn't do prenatal yoga, and a test group that did. And that test group found that they had a higher rate of vaginal birth, lower rates of induction, shorter labor lengths, and also really interestingly, a reduced perception of pain, which I think is so interesting. And again, like ties in the hypnobirthing techniques, right? Like teaching women those techniques actually can change the perception of pain. And I love your content when you talk about pain. You don't shy away from talking about pain, and I'm the same, because some women will find labor painful, but actually if we teach women and share techniques that enable women to reduce their perception of that pain, that's incredible. Like, and we've got evidence that shows that prenatal yoga can do that when a woman is dilating.
Yes, I am a big believer in, rather than saying like, let's do everything we can to reduce the pain. I'm a big believer in actually kind of saying, actually, no, you are strong enough to cope with it. Like,
Yeah.
yes, it's probably going to hurt. But that doesn't mean that, you're going to suffer. It doesn't mean that it's a negative thing. It's a positive kind of pain. Have you read Mindful Birth by Nancy Bardak?
I don't think I have actually, no.
That's a really good book to read. I really recommend it. And it's all about kind of viewing the pain neutrally, like rather
Yeah.
than like sitting there in the pain and being like, oh my God, this is an awful pain. It's like you kind of remove yourself from your body and you observe the pain as like a neutral kind of thing. And I try and kind of mix that into my hypnobirthing as well, because I think that's just such a good way to look at it.
That is so interesting. And I think that's so important. And I like to reflect that, like, people do stuff that is painful all the time. Like, people climb Everest, people run marathons, and the first thing of someone finishing a marathon or like getting to the top of Everest, no one says, oh my God, was that so painful? Everyone says, wow, well done, you're so strong, how incredible, I'm so proud of you. And often people will run another marathon, people will climb Everest again, right? Pain doesn't mean that something is completely unmanageable, and it doesn't mean that we can't do it. And it shouldn't necessarily, you can experience pain and it doesn't have to be the overriding memory of that thing. So someone climbing Everest is not going to remember as an overriding memory of that experience of all the pain they went through. They're going to think, oh my God, when I got to the top and I had done it. And that's what we want women to come away from birth feeling like, yes, it was painful. Yes, I might have experienced all these sensations, but the most overriding memory is that feeling of elation when my baby was here. And that's what I'm taking away from it.
And also, like, when you see the London Marathon, I'm pretty sure people are hurting by the end of the London Marathon, but no one's there like offering them paracetamol,
Yeah, exactly.
halfway
Or
along.
saying like, stop, you can't feel any pain. Don't do it.
Exactly. No, they're being told, you can do it, you can do it. So yeah, that is such a good analogy to talk about. And something else that just occurred to me a minute ago. I think we went through this phase over kind of 20 or 30 years where everyone that was pregnant was told, in order to keep you and baby safe, you need to stay still, you need to stop moving, you need to rest during pregnancy. And so we all kind of have this idea now that any kind of exercise, any activity must be somehow dangerous for baby. And that's not true at all. Obviously, there are some things you probably shouldn't do during pregnancy, but actually staying active should be encouraged, and getting that message out there that doing active things, like yoga, or even if you were if you're already someone that does exercise like running, you can carry on doing that like through pregnancy.
Absolutely, yeah. So generally, the recommendations are, if you're doing it before pregnancy, apart from some real exceptions like things where you're at really high risk of falling, if you're doing it before pregnancy, you can carry on in pregnancy if you want to and you feel comfortable to. So absolutely, if you're running before pregnancy, it doesn't mean that you suddenly have to stop. You might need to reduce your speed towards the end of your pregnancy. You might want to reduce your length of distance that you're running, but you don't you don't have to. And actually, there's loads of benefits to keeping active during pregnancy. And I think it's also good to remember that even if you are not active before pregnancy, some activities you can take up during pregnancy and to maintain that, to kind of get those benefits. So, the three things that are really, really kind of low risk, low intensity, like walking, swimming, yoga, all fantastic things to do during pregnancy. Anyone can do those things, even if you hadn't started doing them before. So certainly, a huge amount of people who come to my classes have never done yoga before, never started it, start in pregnancy. So pregnancy yoga is a great thing, one of those things to take up if you have got pregnant and you're like, oh God, like wasn't maybe super active before and I know I should be, and what should I be doing? Like walking, yoga, swimming, do those things. You can get all the benefits from exercise, from those things, obviously following any advice from your healthcare professionals in those. But as you said, Ellie, people who are doing exercise before pregnancy absolutely can continue them as long as there's no contraindication. So like I'm really into weightlifting, and I was lifting weights until I was like 40 weeks pregnant, and people would be looking at me in the gym like, oh God, what is this woman doing? Why is she about to give birth? Is she pregnant Bailey, like lifting weights? And I love it. I still love it. I find it really relaxing. I get a lot of endorphins from it. I get a lot of feeling of strength and power. And actually, we don't see a huge amount of very pregnant women doing activities like that. So being able to see people out in the world, pregnant women living their lives. And I remember being in the gym and this woman came up to me and I think she was like 6-7 weeks pregnant. She was like, I really want to keep doing this, but I just don't know how. She's like, how are you doing it? Like, and I was like, yeah, I'm 38 weeks pregnant, but like, there's so much information out there. And if you do it safely and you follow people, there's so much information on the internet. Like Bumps and Burpees is my favorite woman on Instagram. She's got 3 kids. She's a personal trainer. She's amazing exercise stuff. And that's all about adapting weightlifting and high intensity exercise to pregnancy. So there's loads of information out there. And if you want to keep doing it, you absolutely can. And there is huge benefits to keeping active in pregnancy.
And also, let's not forget there are women out there, like myself included, that have incredibly active jobs.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really stop my job during pregnancy, and so I was hopping in and out of tractors and Land Rovers and
Yeah.
that, and I had to be a bit more mindful of the fact that as my bump grew, I couldn't fit in certain gaps that I could fit into before. And getting over gates was just a little bit slower, but you still just kind of crack on with life, and that's in a way kind of just as active as someone sort of going to the gym or doing running, anything like that. It doesn't just stop.
Absolutely. And I think you see it even more, if you have a second pregnancy, when actually most women who have a second child, will have their child will be quite young. So they're probably picking them up, they're probably carrying them, they're probably hauling them around. And toddlers are not light. You can a 15-kilogram toddler, a squiggling toddler, is heavy. So if you're doing that, that's also active. Like, pregnant women don't just sit down and get wrapped in cotton wool for their whole 9 months. They are just living their lives. And yeah, being pregnant with a toddler, I think, is the ultimate endurance sport.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So we've been talking about prenatal yoga. So can we talk a little bit now about antenatal yoga and how that kind of benefits when you're in recovery? When would you sort of recommend that somebody would start to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for postnatal yoga, we recommend if you had straightforward vaginal birth if you had any without stitches. You can do from 6 weeks. If you had a cesarean or a vaginal birth that was assisted or with any third or fourth degree tear that required stitches, we'd recommend 10 weeks. And you can either sort of join a class or you can do stuff online. And there is loads of benefits to postnatal yoga. So normally postnatal yoga is either like mum and baby yoga or it's kind of postnatal yoga. And mum and baby yoga will often have more yoga like sessions and elements of the class that kind of appeal to the baby as well. So they might be singing, they might have you're doing the movement with the baby as well, you're involving the baby, whereas a postnatal yoga class will be focused primarily on the mum and about rehabilitating the mum, but then maybe baby can kind of come along. So often baby will kind of be there, but it won't be focused on the baby as such. So mum and baby yoga can be super beneficial for like bonding with your baby. They love the movement. They're obviously loving the songs. Postnatal yoga can be I guess I said, more focused on the kind of sort of rehabilitation of mum. And the nature of yoga is focused on breath work. It's focused on lots of core activation, which is obviously fantastic for rebuilding your core, for rebuilding your pelvic floor. So postnatal classes will lots of that focus will be on rebuilding your strength from the inside out. So doing a lot of pelvic floor strength work, but also relaxation work. So a lot of women will have a really tense pelvic floor after birth. And we always just think, we need to do loads of Kegels and lifts, and that's going to solve any kind of pelvic floor issues that we have. And actually, lots of women have to also learn how to relax their pelvic floor, because it might be super tense after birth, which can also cause issues. So learning to both build the strength and to release the pelvic floor through breath work, but also through gentle movement, can rebuild that. And then we'd also generally do an assessment to see if you've still got ab separation. And if you have, then we would do specific work around rehabilitating that, bringing your ab muscles back together again to rebuild that core strength. Because that's not just about having six packs, but rebuilding your core strength is absolutely integral to making sure that helps you kind of manage any incontinence issues, back pain, hip pain. It's all really interlinked. So postnatal yoga tends to focus on rebuilding that strength from the inside out. Then you will then add on things like squats, stretches. A lot of the stretches are around kind of shoulders and back, because however you're feeding your baby, you're going to be holding that baby for hours at a time, feeding them a breast or a bottle. You're going to be rocking them. You're going to be sleeping in a weird position. So we all return into like little prawns when we're postnatal, and we kind of get quite rounded shoulders. So a lot of shoulder opening, as well as rebuilding that core. And I'm really, really passionate about pelvic floor health. Pelvic health is so integral. And, so many women just get signed off by their GP at 6 weeks, and they're like, go and exercise. And actually going back to, going out and running at 6 weeks postpartum is really not good for your pelvic floor. You need to do rehabilitation on your pelvic floor first, even if you don't feel like you have any pelvic symptoms, because there has been so much pressure on that pelvic floor carrying your baby and then giving birth to your baby. Even if you had a cesarean section, the weight on that pelvic floor by the end of pregnancy is huge, because it's literally your baby pushing down on it. So rebuilding that pelvic floor, rebuilding your core muscles, knitting that all back together will create that base for you then to do more intense exercise or to just live your life going forward. So postnatal yoga is really focused on that, but it's also focused on creating community, like a community of new mums, sharing those issues. Like I always make sure we've got time for a chat at the end and like a biscuit, and we always just have a conversation about life and what our week has been like. And I also include visualizations and relaxations in my postnatal classes as well, because to me, we learn all these incredible things during hypnobirthing, and we do all this amazing like breath work, visualization, affirmations. And then the vast majority of women, after they've given birth, don't revisit them. And I really strongly believe that continuing those tools into postpartum is integral. And Mindful Mama by Sophie Fletcher is a fantastic book for that. And she has specific scripts for visualizations for postnatal. So like focusing on rest, focusing on sleep, crying, being a confident parent, and kind of continuing using the benefits of hypnobirthing about positive mindset, about building confidence, about learning how to relax, about taking that time out to relax and connect with your body. All of that is so important in postpartum as well. So we'll do a bit of that. We'll have a focus on an affirmation as well. So again, it's mind and body combined. And it can be a really fabulous way to get back into movement or to just take that time out for yourself each week.
I love that. And what you were talking about with the pelvic floor health, I saw a reel the other day that said that there are some countries where women after birth, they are referred to a pelvic floor physio kind of as standard, like as a standard part of their postnatal care. And that's something that we're really kind of lacking in this country, because we really only tend to go to a pelvic floor specialist if there is like a problem. But as you said, you don't necessarily even know that you have a problem.
Exactly. So I think France, just everyone just goes. I haven't fact checked that, but I think in France, like every single person goes to a pelvic health physio. And like you say, in this country, you'll tend to, if you've had particularly severe tear or there is a specific problem, then you can be referred to a pelvic health physio. Obviously, it varies from place to place. But I would say, like, if you can afford it, a pelvic health physio appointment is a hugely beneficial way of spending £60. And I say to my friends, when you have a baby shower, do not ask for loads of baby grows. Ask for a pelvic floor health physio appointment. Ask for a lactation consultant appointment. Ask for loads of frozen meals. And if you haven't done hypnobirthing yoga already, put that on your list of things that you want at your baby shower. And postpartum presents. Your baby does not need more little rattles. The amount of comforters I got for my baby, I'm like, the baby doesn't even like comforters. How much money have these people spent on these beautiful comforters? And actually telling people what would be amazing for me would be a pelvic health physio appointment. People, if you've got people in your corner who've got your back, they will be more than happy to put some money towards that. But I would say we spend a huge amount of money on our nurseries, spend a huge amount of money on our really expensive prams. And actually, the best gift you can give your baby is a happy, healthy mum. So let's think about what things we can put in place before we give birth to enable that to happen as well. And I think one of those things, if you can find a way to access it privately, unfortunately, it generally has to be private, then it's a fantastic thing to do. I went to pelvic health physio and I came away with a huge amount of information and they give you a specific series of exercises to do that's graduated. So you start here and then you move up to here. They normally have a follow-up. It's just a really good starting point. And then from that point, you then can access, mum and baby exercise classes, or you can start running again, or you can do Couch to 5K, or, even if you don't want to go back to running, even if you're not interested in any of that, just living your day-to-day life with pelvic floor issues can be really, really challenging. So it doesn't matter if you're not interested in doing high impact exercise, rehabbing your pelvic floor after birth is really important for every woman.
Yeah, and I think it has that's another thing that's become normalized is the the joke about, every time you sneeze, you wee a little bit, or you
Yeah.
jump up and down, you wee a little bit, and it doesn't have to be that way.
No, absolutely not. And it shouldn't be that way. And like you say, it's fun. It's like a funny joke, but actually, is that funny? Like, why do we just accept that women in their 30s or their 20s are going to have this condition for the rest of their life, which is preventable and reversible? That to me, that's not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're coming to the end of our conversation now. Is there anything we haven't covered yet? Any topic you would like, just any sort of passing thoughts, any messages you would like to pass on to my listeners?
I think we've covered most of it. I think just generally, I would say if you have thought about doing pregnancy yoga, but you've been put off by maybe the reputation of it or what you think it might be, I would just say give it a go. There are so many classes out there. There are loads locally. You can get loads online as well. Make sure that you're going to a reputable pregnancy yoga teacher. But there are a huge amount of benefits that you can get from it. And we've talked about it today, some of those amazing benefits, but the community you get from it, the knowledge you can get from it, to me can be absolutely transformational for people in pregnancy and birth. So if you've thought about it but you're not convinced, hopefully this might give you a nudge to go and book a class and see what I've been raving about.
And you were saying to me earlier on that you have an online yoga club. Is that right? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's right. So I have a online yoga platform which is £5 a month, so super affordable. And that has a series of videos that you can access as many times as you want, unlimited on demand, and they are maximum 10 minutes long. So when I created that online yoga club, I wanted to make sure that it was really accessible. So me as a busy mum, I am a yoga teacher, but I only tend to do maximum 10 minutes of yoga a day. I just have too much to do, but everyone can find 10 minutes in their day, and that 10 minutes can make a huge amount of difference. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't recording videos that are an hour long that no one could ever use. So these are, there are lots of different ones on there. There's sun salutations, there's relaxation ones, there's ones for birth prep, there's hip openers, and you can fit them in your day at any point. You can watch them as many times as you want. And yeah, it's £5 a month. So if you're thinking about pregnancy yoga, it's a good place to start. And I will be also working on my postnatal version soon. So that will be coming soon. So I'm going to be doing a postnatal yoga club as well, which again will be 10 minutes yoga sequences, because when you have obviously a newborn, it's even trickier to find that time. But again, that will be a way to kind of access it easily from your own home for a really low cost every month.
Amazing. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
No worries. It's been fabulous. Thanks so much, Ellie.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bell Mama Hypnobirthing and Positive Birth podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a review and hit subscribe on your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an update. I'd love to hear from you, so if there's a topic you'd like me to cover, or a question you'd like answered, or if you'd like to share your birth story, please get in touch by email or DM me on Instagram. Until next time, take care.